Jack Williams explores the rise and the power of the humble T-shirt.
You probably see them every day, maybe hundreds of them, thousands. Plain ones, coloured ones, funny ones. Often they're promotional, sometimes provocative. They're so common that they're very easy to ignore.
My name's Tony Glenville. I'm the Creative Director for the School of Media and Communications at London College of Fashion. The T-shirt never goes away. New York, Milan, Paris, Buenos Aires, Iceland, you'll always find a T-shirt somewhere on the catwalk. And this season, I think there were a lot more classic tees, the basic piece that you start with, and then you add your personality, your layering, your stupidity, the madness.
From the catwalk to the building site and everywhere in between, these simple garments can be tools of the rebel, the protester, the campaigner, the corporate marketeer. They are strangely powerful things, but with humble origins.
Generally, everyone is agreed that by the end of the 19th century, in military circles, some form of T-shirt underneath their uniform was what it started with. But it wasn't in a knit or a jersey, it was in a flat woven fabric, which of course meant the first T-shirts had to have some kind of opening to get them on and off. So they had funny covered buttons or little something to do them up. But it's an underwear garment. It's not a fashion garment, it's not an outerwear garment, and it's a men's garment. It goes under a military uniform, it's often long-sleeved, and it's almost a protective garment as well. By the time the Second World War comes, men are wearing T-shirts, because when you take your uniform or something, it doesn't look as down-dressed as a vest does under something. So you can see lots of military pictures of guys relaxing, whatever, where the T-shirt is visible and so on. But the moment the Second World War finishes, the T-shirt starts to become slightly a symbol of rebellion. And the idea that you're not wearing a shirt, which is what men wear on the top half, and you've removed a layer, is a little bit like, you know, women wearing tops that look like the top of a petticoat, Vivienne Westwood sticking the bra on the outside of something. You're taking something that's not being designed to be seen, but as a functional piece, and you're turning it into a statement. And that's what starts to happen immediately after the war, through the 40s and 50s, as rock and roll comes along, and people like Marlon Brando, James Dean, early Paul Newman, those rebels, they're the ones that start to really promote it.
The T-shirt really became popularized by teenagers.
Steve Tropiano, author of Rebels and Chicks, a history of the Hollywood teen movie.
There seemed to be a connection between their sort of rebellious nature and the T-shirt. And that's sort of where James Dean and Marlon Brando come in.
The brute who lied and cheated, who promised everything, gave nothing.
In terms of Marlon Brando, probably one of the most famous images is from A Streetcar Named Desire. We see him wearing a T-shirt, and you know, he had a great build, a great body, and it definitely showed off his muscles. And in that film, as in most of his films, he played a bit of a sort of a tortured soul. He also played a character who was very working class. There was a connection between that and sort of the masculinity.
Don't you ever talk that way to me. Disgusting, vulgar, greasy. And who do you think you are, a couple of queens or something?
And we saw that with James Dean as well, didn't we? Rebel Without a Cause.
Yes. Rebel Without a Cause, you get more of kind of a suburban teen. The first time we actually see him is actually in a police station, I believe, and he is in trouble. And he is very much, you know, established immediately as being a troublemaker, as being a rebel.
You're tearing me apart!
What?
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
But he is wearing his sort of iconic T-shirt outfit, and wore a bright red jacket because this movie was in color, and wore blue jeans.
Even during the 50s, most boys that wore it bought it in white or maybe a bit of pale grey, but it wasn't seen as a coloured item. It's still associated with its underwear roots and under the uniform, etc.
Tony Glenville from the London College of Fashion.
When we get to the 60s, colour becomes the big thing, and the poor little T-shirt is dipped in anything that is lying around. Orange, blue, green, red. It suddenly becomes a coloured item. And it becomes cheaper. It's in piles, and you're rooting through them for the right colour, the right size, and whatever. We then get hippies and tie and dye. So people are doing their own T-shirts at home in the bath, much to mother's delight, and the T-shirt becomes transformed.
I've come to one of the lower ground floors of the Museum of London to speak to Beatrice Balin. She's the curator of fashion here.
We're on the lower floor in the museum. We're about to go into what we call the costume store, where we store all our clothes and textiles. So we've got quite a big collection of royal T-shirts. We have a lot to do with the wedding of Charles and Diana in 1981. So it starts off with congratulations, with the famous pictures of Charles and Diana when they got engaged. And then it gets a little bit more irreverent. So we've got a woman and a man talking, and the man has a newspaper in the hand that says a wedding of the year, and he says, "What wedding?" Which wouldn't have happened, I think, in real life. And then this one is quite funny, or mildly amusing maybe. It's sort of Diana and Charles as punks. So he has an earring and he wears bondage trousers and she wears fishnet stockings. And it says, "Nice one, Charlie." And then one underneath that is one of my favourites, and it's a Catherine Hamnet one.
Catherine Hamnet, the designer.
She famously went to Downing Street to meet Margaret Thatcher in 1984 and had a T-shirt saying, I think it was 58% don't want Pershing. And there's this sort of picture of Margaret Thatcher looking slightly aghast at this sort of T-shirt.
When she was protesting against the missiles, the
Yes.
Pershing missiles.
That's right. And she had a few T-shirts like that. So this one says "Clean up or die." So that was sort of about the environment. And she had one that had "Stop Acid Rain" on it. So that was quite interesting, and I think quite new at the time to have a fashion designer use the T-shirt in that way. I think it was often used by sort of campaigners or by charities, but an actual bringing it into high fashion, because her stuff is not cheap, I think that was quite a new thing at the time.
And of course, much easier to smuggle a T-shirt into a secure location, like the home of the Prime Minister, than it is to take a big banner in or something like that. Of course, with such a cheap and powerful way to convey a message, it didn't take long before the advertisers got interested. In 1977, and the New York State Department of Commerce commissioned a campaign to promote tourism. You will know the logo. You'll have seen it on mugs and caps and bumper stickers, and of course, on T-shirts.
Well, my name is Milton Glaser. I'm a graphic designer, and I am most known for my design of the I Love New York identity. That seems to be the one that takes precedent in people's minds.
What did it feel like for you watching people walking around with the I Love New York logo on their chest?
I was happy that the fact that the idea that being useful in a social way was made available to me. The fact that it was publicly useful was very important to me, and it made me happy to feel that I wasn't doing this stuff only to make a living.
I hope the deal was that you got a penny on every logo sold.
If I were only that smart when I was young. No, as a fact, I got more out of it. I got the sense that I had some effect on human culture.
Do you think the fact that it's carried on the body makes a difference?
I do. I do also because it promotes a degree of intimacy that you don't have with other media, where you're always at a psychic and physical distance to it. Here, first of all, it's mobile, which is interesting. The idea that it moves in space is interesting and provocative. And the idea that you can get right up close to it is provocative. And the idea that it's a physical object being worn is provocative. All these elements are not easily quantifiable, but they do have an effect on the perceiver of this information.
Hello, this is BBC World News. I'm Kasia Madeira. People desperately trying to get information about those 200 girls or so who have been abducted from that boarding school in the north of Nigeria. Still not.
My name is Maureen Kubrick. I'm a member of the Bring Back Our Girls group that has been campaigning for the rescue of the kidnapped schoolgirls since April 14th, 2014. The T-shirts are very significant because for every time we wear the T-shirts, there is always the same color. Red is our color, but the hashtags could vary. We have some T-shirts that carries hashtag Bring Back Our Girls Now. Then we have ones that are 365 days on, hashtag Chibok Girls Crying to be Rescued. We decided that every Sundays we'll pick a certain church and we would wear our T-shirts and go worship in such places. We were never really welcomed. You would always feel that tension between us and